This is M100 to Inwood 220th Street. Next stop, East 127th Street and 2nd Avenue. This stop is East 127th Street and 2nd Avenue. Next stop, East 125th Street and 2nd Avenue. Transfers available to M60 SBS and M15 SBS. This stop is East 125th Street and 2nd Avenue. Next stop, East 125th Street and 3rd Avenue. Transfer available to M98 Limited. This stop is East 125th Street and 3rd Avenue. Next stop, East 125th Street and Lexington Avenue. Transfers available to the 4, 5 and 6 trains, M103, M101 and M35. This stop is East 125th Street and Lexington Avenue. Next stop, East 125th Street and Park Avenue. Transfers available to the 4, 5, and 6 trains, Metro North and BX15. This stop is East 125th Street and Park Avenue. Next stop, East 125th Street and Madison Avenue. Transfer available to M1. This stop is East 125th Street and Madison Avenue. Next stop, West 125th Street and 5th Avenue. Transfers available to M1 and M1 Limited. This stop is West 125th Street and 5th Avenue. Next stop, West 125th Street and Malcolm X Boulevard. Transfers available to the 2 and 3 trains, M102 and M7. This stop is West 125th Street and Malcolm X Boulevard. Next stop, West 125th Street and Adam C. Powell Boulevard. Transfer available to M2 Limited. This stop is West 125th Street and Adam C. Powell Boulevard. Next stop, West 125th Street and Fred Douglass Boulevard. Transfer available to M10. This stop is West 125th Street and Fred Douglass Boulevard. Next stop, West 125th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue. Transfers available to the A, B, C and D trains. This stop is West 125th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue. Next stop, West 125th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. This stop is West 125th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 126th Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 126th Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 129th Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 129th Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 131st Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 131st Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 133rd Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 133rd Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 135th Street. Transfer available to M11. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 135th Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 138th Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 138th Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 140th Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 140th Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 143rd Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 143rd Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 145th Street. Transfer available to BX19. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 145th Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 147th Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 147th Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 149th Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 149th Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 151st Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 151st Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 155th Street. Transfer available to BX6 SBS. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 155th Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 157th Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 157th Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 158th Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 158th Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 159th Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 159th Street. Next stop, Amsterdam Avenue and West 161st Street. This stop is Amsterdam Avenue and West 161st Street. Next stop, St. Nicholas Avenue and West 163rd Street. Transfer available to BX7. This stop is St. Nicholas Avenue and West 163rd Street. Next stop, St. Nicholas Avenue and West 167th Street. Transfers available to the 1 and A trains, BX7 and M5. This stop is St. Nicholas Avenue and West 167th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 171st Street. This stop is Broadway and West 171st Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 173rd Street. This stop is Broadway and West 173rd Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 175th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 175th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 178th Street. Transfers available to BX36, BX35, BX3, BX7 and BX11. This stop is Broadway and West 178th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 181st Street. This stop is Broadway and West 181st Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 183rd Street. This stop is Broadway and West 183rd Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 185th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 185th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 187th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 187th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 189th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 189th Street. Next stop, Broadway and Fairview Avenue. Transfer available to M191. This stop is Broadway and Fairview Avenue. Next stop, Broadway and West 193rd Street. This stop is Broadway and West 193rd Street. Next stop, Broadway and Nagle Avenue. This stop is Broadway and Nagle Avenue. Next stop, Broadway and West 196th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 196th Street. Next stop, Broadway and Sherman Avenue. This stop is Broadway and Sherman Avenue. Next stop, Broadway and Arden Street. This stop is Broadway and Arden Street. Next stop, Dickman Street and Broadway. Transfer available to the 8 train. This stop is Dickman Street and Broadway. Next stop, Dickman Street and Sherman Avenue. This stop is Dickman Street and Sherman Avenue. Next stop, Dickman Street and Fort George Hill. This stop is Dickman Street and Fort George Hill. Next stop, 10th Avenue and Harlem River Drive. This stop is 10th Avenue and Harlem River Drive. Next stop, 10th Avenue and West 202nd Street. This stop is 10th Avenue and West 202nd Street. Next stop, 10th Avenue and West 207th Street. This stop is 10th Avenue and West 207th Street. Next stop, 10th Avenue and Sherman Avenue. This stop is 10th Avenue and Sherman Avenue. Next stop, 10th Avenue and West 215th Street. This stop is 10th Avenue and West 215th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 219th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 219th Street. Next stop, Broadway and West 220th Street. This stop is Broadway and West 220th Street. This is M100 to Inwood 220th Street. Please exit through the rear door.